Hey everyone, Dumont Owen here. It's Wednesday and we're back in on LinkedIn, Lucrative LinkedIn Live. The show where we talk about great things about LinkedIn and what you can accomplish on LinkedIn, but we also talk about how you can improve your presence, what you can do to build your business as an entrepreneur on LinkedIn. And today I'm really excited about our topic because we're talking all about visibility. And so many of you have asked me questions about how you can become more visible on LinkedIn. So I'm really excited about today's guest because this is my label, not hers. I think of her as the visibility queen because if anybody knows visibility, it's Leilani Wells. So let me just briefly, Leilani, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show. And I have been so excited about having you on. So
Thank you.
just welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who are not familiar with Leilani, you're about to become familiar. But Leilani is a visibility expert and a brand manager. And you know that I talk about brands all the time. She specializes in social media and video content creation, in getting you seen. She's especially known for a program that she calls Get Seen. And just the name of the program just gets me all a tingle because isn't that what we're on LinkedIn for? You know, this is our business network. This is where we can really build our presence. So one thing that I want you to know about Leilani is that she has this uncanny ability to recognize your gifts, the full magnitude of your gifts. And after identifying those, she can guide you and will guide you through increasing your confidence in your gifts and your clarity about what it is you do, what it is you have to offer, and what makes you you. Leilani's clients are recognized throughout social media platforms and online, and their gifts are amplified in the process. And in turn, they get to enjoy a more fulfilling business experience, which is what we all want, right? So, Leilani, I recently heard you. You know, maybe I shouldn't tip you off this way, but I listened to you on Evelyn Fusion's podcast, and that was so enlightening and just such a joy. I just loved your story. So I wonder if you could just take a minute and fill us in on how you actually got to where you are now in working with people on creating and building their visibility online.
First off, thank you so much for having me, Dumont. I'm
Oh,
like
you're very
so
welcome.
excited to be here. This is the first LinkedIn Live that I've chosen to be guest speaker with. So
Wow, I'm honored.
I appreciate you and very excited about all of this. And yeah, so I will dive right in and thank you all
Good.
who are here with us today. Nice to meet you here in LinkedIn land. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, we're also streaming on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, and
So
in Facebook and
yeah,
YouTube land.
not
All
not
right.
to
Well,
make you
we're
nervous
extra.
here.
Okay, we're really getting seen today.
Yeah, we really are.
All
So
right,
you're
great.
gonna be all over the place.
All right, I'm with it. I'm with it. That works for me.
Okay, good.
So, yeah. So, and by the way, when you mentioned Evelyns podcast, it's really interesting because I have, you know, how you have, I mean, we all know what the link trees are, and I have a version of that called Streamcard. And literally I've been a guest on a few different podcasts, of course, but that one I put on that. I featured that because
Yeah.
she is someone who brought out just the realness in myself, you know, just the me feeling comfortable being me. And when you're surrounding yourself with people like that,
Yeah.
then you can really get seen, right? You can really express different sides of yourself because everyone and everything doesn't get all of the sides of yourself, right? And
Yeah, and you
so,
know what? She's
yeah.
so good at, I mean, you know, I'm a little um a little shy of following her because she does
Yeah.
great interviews. So she's really
Oh
talented.
yeah. Oh, don't be shy. Follow her. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you asked me how I got into this, and that's a great question. Thank you. So you guys can get to know me a little bit first. So
Great.
let's see. What's the short version? I would say that everything that when we wind up working on what we're super passionate about and getting there, we can kind of look backwards on our life of all the
Right.
different career things, right? All the things that kind of play into this fabulous version of you where you're at right now.
Right.
And so for me, I started working at the age of 14, very young. And I began to live on my own as a teenager, an older teenager, around 17, with some friends
Wow.
and traveling a lot and doing a lot. And so within that experience, I wound up learning a lot about people, marketing, all this stuff, because you're really a kid, right? So you're surviving, you're learning all these things you have to learn to really be able to survive. So so I wound up naturally being then navigating towards sales positions and moved into management experiences with sales organizations at a very young age, and
Okay.
wound up working call centers. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it was very interesting. I was like one of the only women in each of these call centers, and I wound up moving up in management and hiring and all of that. And I learned so much about sales beyond what I had naturally learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, in the process of all of this, wound up going back to college and got a degree in business and marketing. So much tied into really understanding people. And then social
Mm-hmm.
media comes out. And at the time social media comes out, I am a single mother. I had been living in Washington State when I'm originally from California at the
Okay.
time. So I didn't have help with my son, and I missed seeing him. And I was like,
Sure.
I have to pay the sitters though, and I have to make the money. So what do I
Mhm.
do? I could
Yeah.
only see him to wake him up and say goodnight at that point.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, well, I can't bring in any more money unless I figure out how to maximize my time. So then instead of taking breaks at work, I wound up sitting at my desk, liking people on Facebook, friending people all over the place, and doing it at such a level that I attracted business owners and people that had already had success through different channels. And they were like, what are you doing? So then I said, aha. And that is how I became someone who was doing I was a social media either manager or coach at that point.
Okay.
So that's the next level. Then it was people asking me how to get on LinkedIn, how to get on Facebook, how to set up their accounts, all this techie stuff that they could find out on YouTube. And I
Sure.
started realizing, wait a second, you don't need me for that. And there's a reason you're not doing that on your own.
Mhm.
What's going on here? And then I realized I switched to visibility coach. And so now I'm a visibility coach and a marketing expert. I have an agency, and now I feel fully, I'm my full me, and I'm helping people on such a massive scale because of the fact that people are like, well, what is visibility? Because it means something different for all of us. But at its
Yeah.
core, we all want to get seen. We all want to
Oh, yeah.
we all want to
Right.
be seen, right? And it doesn't just come with how do I sign up on my Instagram and put my proper, how do I optimize my page? No, it comes with what's going on that's stopping us from showing ourselves to people, from just turning it on
Mhm.
and focusing on the quality of things and not the quantity and the perfectionism.
Okay. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, LinkedIn is all about business. I mean,
Hmm.
that's why we're here. It's for we're not here to get to know friends and do funny videos and everything. We're here because we are business people.
Yes.
And one of the things I hear from my viewers quite a lot is how do I stand out from those other 840 million people on LinkedIn? Particularly, how do I stand out to my audience, for my ideal clients? And I
Mm.
wonder if you have any thoughts on that, why people are not as visible as they want to be, and what we can do to change that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that question. That's so great. I mean, I think we're all just tired right now with everything we've been through these last few years. We're just tired of really just putting up facades and, oh, it's business. We're on LinkedIn, so let me put on a coat and a tie
Yeah.
and all this nonsense. And really what that says is it's another layer that we have to get past to find out, do I trust this person? Because right now what we're
Mm,
noticing here in the world is we're having trouble trusting because there's been so many things that are said this way or that way about all kinds of things in our life, where
mhm.
when we get to be someone's friend, when they show us themselves instead of this perfect image of what we think business is supposed to look like,
Yeah.
and they take a step out and just say, hey, this is me, you know, I mean, of course, we're not going to go on LinkedIn like we may go on Facebook or somewhere else and be
Mhm,
like, showing, maybe speaking, cussing or something like that, right?
mhm.
But but we are going to go on LinkedIn if we want to attract exactly who we want to be working with,
Right.
being as close to who we are. And let's be real, when the camera's not on, aren't you putting on your yoga pants? Aren't you putting on
Yeah.
your t-shirt? Aren't you,
Yeah.
hanging out and doing these normal things that we all are doing until the camera turns on? Why not just show up like that? You know,
Okay.
and be intentional. Yeah, and then that builds so much trust, and that's what's really attracting people. Is people want to know, it's the brand is now who is who is the most themselves. That's the new brand.
Mm, so
Okay.
that authenticity in who they are.
Yes, it is authenticity. And I love that you said that word because that word is thrown around a lot and then it
Yeah.
goes into a authenticity versus fake. And so I like
Yeah.
this. I don't believe that if someone's not showing their personal business, then they're fake. No, we all show certain sides to ourselves based on certain things.
Mhm.
For example, you and I come from the time when we used to put our best photos on the coffee table album, right?
Right.
When the actual pictures were put out for our guests to see, like,
Right.
look at little Johnny on this special day, and you know and all these people, right? And then our real great photos that were personal to us but maybe not so perfect, they were in
Mhm.
that box in the
Right.
closet, but we're not throwing those photos away.
No,
Those are they're treasured photos, right? Is it fake
exactly.
that we didn't put it on the coffee table? No, it's not
Yeah.
fake. It's like you gotta earn that right to see those photos. I
That's
have to
right.
trust you,
They're
right?
not there for everyone.
They're not there for everyone. So push the limits on what is there for your audience. And if you find yourself holding back too much, uh, and I'll stop right here because I'm going into a lot of things after I say this. But if you find yourself holding back too much, then create another environment within that environment where you can give more and invite those people into that environment. For example,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you for an
yes, yes,
example.
okay.
Thanks.
So these platforms, there's a culture to all of every platform, and
Mhm.
then there's subcultures within the platform. So like you have where we're at now, and then you have a group. So if somebody thinks that if they go into a LinkedIn group or they create a LinkedIn group that they can communicate better and more, give more of themselves, hence authentic, right? If we want to
Mhm.
equate it to that, right?
Mhm.
They can go and invite people into that group. So if those people they're and that is building trust if they take that extra step to get into that group,
Mhm.
right? Like the people who take the
Mhm.
extra step to get into my email list today,
Right, right.
they right, they get another layer because there's more
Yeah,
trust and
right,
intimate. So
right.
that's another environment that I created to give more of myself.
Okay, okay. So you're creating that almost a cocoon
Mhm.
where you can turn into a butterfly, or you can be a butterfly, right?
Mhm.
So that makes a lot of sense to me, and I know that all of us are wondering how how we want to show up, what we want people to see of us in that space. And I'm, I know that you really help people, what's the word I want? Zero in on their unique gifts, how they are unique in the world. And are there any questions you might ask, or questions that we might ask ourselves that would help us become that unique person, or help
Mm.
us be who we are within that group or that environment?
Yeah, thank you again. I'm really enjoying this, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
So
So am I.
I'm really enjoying this. So yeah, I would say you're you're talking about something that a lot of people come to me for, which is clarity.
Yeah.
It's clarity. And I think the reason why so many people right now are seeking clarity is one, it's the times, right?
Hmm.
Because when we had to stay at home, we started realizing what in the quietness of all of it, the forced quietness, if you will, how much we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like robots doing all the things, right?
Hmm.
So we were forced to look at ourselves and look at our surroundings and like, oh my God, time is just passing, and we weren't doing anything but just going through motions, you know?
Yeah.
So now we all want this clarity because we were just like so like constricted that we needed to understand what we wanted because we didn't want to feel that anymore. And
Right.
so when you're coming to me or you're seeking on your own clarity, it really comes down to what brings you joy. And what's interesting about this is for the longest, we haven't put business and joy together. Just like as we go cycle back to the beginning of the conversation where we're talking about showing up a certain way because it's business, you have to be like this.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And that's great for big corporations like Coca-Cola and all this stuff where you scale so big you have to be like robots or else it'll all fall apart.
Right.
Fine.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you and I got into business, most likely a portion of it was because we wanted to feel fulfilled inside.
Hmm.
We wanted to work with who we wanted to work with, do what we want to do, even if we say it was about money. Well, what did we
Hmm.
want to do with that money? Well,
Right.
we wanted to have fun. We wanted to be fulfilled. Okay, so let's bring it all back to having fun and being fulfilled. Does it
Yeah.
feel good to wear that blazer when we rather be in our yoga pants and our,
Right.
our t-shirts? Does it feel good to speak a certain way when naturally, we speak uh, all kinds of ways, when we're talking to our friends? I use slang when I feel like using slang.
Hmm.
I want the people that are my people to be drawn to me, and I want the other
Hmm.
people to be repelled.
Well,
You
that's one of the things that characterizes a strong brand, right? It
know?
it repels as strongly as it attracts.
Yeah.
And I think so many of us have trouble with that. It's like, oh, I don't want to ignore anyone or cut down the size of my niche because I have something for everyone. Everyone could use what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if someone is trying to get to that point of clarity, what are some of the questions or the points that they might want to consider?
That's great. I will. The easy and quick answer is start writing down what brings you joy. And I
Oh,
mean, literally start writing down what brings you joy. And it doesn't have to be relative to business. I feel like when we think about what we're writing down, then it stops the flow. Like nothing is
okay.
definitive when we're writing this stuff down. I'm not talking about necessarily journaling. I try to become a journaler, but it's not my thing.
Yeah,
But
me too.
right, but think about it, if you're not a journal, as a list, if you're
Yeah,
like
that's
right,
good.
and just write down, I like this. Like for me, like I like style. I like to play around with my hair and have
Hmm.
earrings, but I also like to play around with style in a casual way too. I like style.
Sure.
So I would write that down, right? I could write down that I love like walks with my son and drives with my son. That's not business related, but it could cycle back to being related to your business if
Sure.
you just focus on just letting it flow out of your mind and writing it down. Okay.
So find your joy. That's great advice. I really love that because I think it's something that, well, first of all, it's something that we do not consider when we're thinking about business or creating our business. Joy doesn't, you don't hear that a whole lot.
Yeah.
So that's great advice. Find your joy and write that down. So what other tips do you have for us?
Okay, thanks.
I'm curious. I want to get in there and find out about this.
I love how you're leaning in. Okay. Let's see. So what's another good one? Find your environment. So after you start to understand your joy in your business, and this is an ongoing process, by the way. So nothing,
Okay.
what the work that I do, it expands one onto another as you get closer and closer, especially when we aren't conditioned to equate money making activities with things that bring us joy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I gotta go to work today. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
programmed to think it has to be miserable. We have to be working our tail off, all these things. It has to just be not good until we retire. And then that's when the fun comes for 10, 20, 30 years, whatever. But that bulk of our life, no, it's we're creators. Okay. If you're an entrepreneur, you are a creator. If you've put your own logo and you made your own thing, even if you're like, you own a law firm or your law firm could be so fun, right? It could be so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could have a chill room for your clients that are coming in stressed out, or for your staff that's stressed out, and where they play in the arcade to get over the fact that they're dealing with a lawsuit. You are making this whatever you want it to be. Okay, you're a creator. So let's see. But going back to your question, you're asking, what's another way to have more clarity? So another way is to have more clarity is to understand your core values. To start with your core values, and that is like one of the beginning, like mission, vision, core values, all of that. So that's where I start with people when they work with me, is like really, and that's something that we always want to think back on, look back on, all of that. There's a great book I'm reading out there called Traction, and it talks about when you have your vision is clear and you bring that vision to your team and they buy into that vision, then that's where the true business expansion happens, right?
Okay.
And so you can have real clarity come up when you are honed in on just, what do you value? Like, what is most important? Start there. Foundation.
So what are some of the questions that you ask that would have someone start really thinking about what their values are? Because values are personal. And we probably don't all value the same things, I'm guessing.
Yeah. When I ask questions, it becomes a series of questions and not just one, because what happens, especially when we're talking about something that deep, what happens is what we say first, in all things, in all aspects of life, human nature is, we just say, the first thing we say is not the reality of what we're really dealing with. Like, if you think about it, for example, when someone's angry and in an argument and they're like, oh my God, you didn't shut that door, you left it cracked and I told you to shut that door. And you're like, okay, why are you getting worked up over a door? Well, it's probably not that. They're probably mad because you maybe didn't spend enough time with them and they're not, receiving, their needs aren't met in some other way. But like, it takes a while to get underneath whatever's really being said. And so, and that's in, like I said, in all areas of life. So when you think of that, then it goes into a question series, asking questions and just letting it flow, just letting it flow. What do you value? Someone could say lots of money. I could say, okay, that's great, but money's a tool, or money is a tool. So what would you use that money for? Oh, well, I would use that. Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to use that money I'm taking my son, for instance, I'm taking my son on a cruise, his first cruise. He's 10 years old. I'm a single mother, taking him. I travel with him all the time. I want him to really have the best life experience, and I do my best. You know, it's not always perfect, but we're trying our best here. And this is a big deal for me to take him on the cruise.
That's very cool.
Right. It's not easy, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't, you know, I'm successful, but I'm not a millionaire yet, you know. And I'm really proud to be taking my son on this cruise. Now, what do I value? Do I value the money that I took to get to the cruise? Do I value the cruise? Do I value my son? Yes, I value my son, but what do I really value in addition? Like, what's underneath all those layers? So I take people through stuff like that. For me, I value being able to feel like I'm a great mom and I'm providing for my son.
Yeah.
That is when we go down deep to the core, right? Why am I taking him on this cruise? I value that experience because it's going to feel good. I want to feel good. I want my son to feel good. I want my son to know that he is a prince capable of all things, and one day he will be a king. And so therefore, this is what's all in it. Now, that is going deeper down to the core of things.
Okay, so we've talked about what you would value, and how is that different? This is you're gonna shoot me.
No, you're
How
good.
is that different than what your son might value about?
Oh no, that's a great question. So, my son. I'm so glad you asked that because my son and I, we have these conversations. And so my son, one of his values is quality time. So yeah, so being that I am a single parent, or so I like to say solo parent, and
I
so
like that.
right, it sounds less like I've envisioned when people say single mother or something like
Yeah.
this poor woman that's
Yeah, you really do.
you know, I have a great life. Everyone's got a great life over here. You know, I'm a solo parent is what it is, right? And so I value, I understand though, as a solo parent, that he gets less of my time than he may if he, and also being an only child, because you know, he's not like he has to find ways to really just, or we have to find ways to keep it going, you know, entertainment wise, quality time wise. So he really values quality time. So what's really cool is that I know that when we go on this cruise, he's going to have that quality time with me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be on my laptop and doing all the things like, you know, at all weird hours. And that's the beauty of that for him and for myself.
Okay, wow, that's really cool. And so let's go to the next level here. If one of your son's goals when he goes on this trip is to build his visibility, how might he go about that?
Oh my. Okay, so my son does not want to get seen.
Okay.
He has me as a mom, so he's the opposite. He's like, oh, here she goes again.
Okay.
That being said, if he sees a camera, he will ready on cue, smile, pose, all the things.
Okay.
But he doesn't like being all on video like all the time and all that stuff. So I have to be aware of his needs of not wanting to be seen all the time.
Well, and that's important too, because we have to decide how comfortable we are with that.
Yeah.
But I think that visibility has a lot to do with how you show up for your audience, and particularly on social platforms, because they're all so different. You know, I will not go near TikTok. I'm sorry. For one thing, it scares me. But for the other thing, it's just a whole different skill set that I'm just at this point not going to get into. But it's a different one. But when we talk about LinkedIn, we're talking about our business, and we're talking about building opportunities, either opportunities to bring in clients or business opportunities where we might be able to, you know, really collaborate with someone. So I'm wondering, you know, from that visibility standpoint, knowing that we have specific goals in mind, What is the connection between, and I'm going to take you through, what is the connection between knowing what our goals are, knowing what we want to create, whether that's opportunities or clients or whatever, and visibility? So goals, opportunities, and visibility.
Okay. So let me make sure I understand the question correctly, which I think I do. So basically, how do we align how we're being visible with where we want to go goals wise in business?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. No, that's wonderful. Okay. So when we think about like where we want to go in business, let me see how to frame this one. Let me think about a goal I have and then what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I'll go down that path.
Okay.
I am looking right now. So I have I had some clients that I was growing on LinkedIn for a while, and I wasn't growing my own LinkedIn platform because
Right.
sometimes when you do these things, you're growing everybody else's platforms with them. You're coaching them on doing it, and you just know these formulas and these paths so well that you just don't care to do it for yourself.
Oh, I do understand that. It's like the shoemaker's kids, right?
So so I've worked with a lot of people, and I'm just finally I realized though, because I'm going to do anything that's best for my client, I started realizing, well,
Right.
I can help my clients more if I focus on growing my own LinkedIn too. So let me just
Sure.
go and just do that, right? And so last month I started doing that, and I grew around like 900 in 1
Wow,
month,
that's
something to
great.
that effect, because I was being intentional for myself, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But intentional for myself because I knew it would benefit if I can then start sharing with my clients, right? And so I now put a focal point on how I'm visible here in this culture, in this environment on LinkedIn, because my business goal is to be attracting and gaining more clients from this platform, and also
Mhm.
helping grow those clients within this platform. Okay.
Right. Right.
So now let's just say my goal has nothing to do with an online business and visibility, and has to do with a brick and mortar business. Okay. Let's say I own
Mhm.
a brick and mortar and I want more people to come literally physically into my store more. Okay.
Sure.
So then my visibility goals may be something to the fact of picking up the telephone and going to visit my local chamber of commerce and putting together a
Mhm.
game plan there. See, people equate visibility so much to social media because that's one of the largest things that it is equated to, but it's not the only thing. And so
Okay.
that's why I love working on visibility, because especially having ran call centers, because I understand the value
Yeah.
of actually being in the presence of people's company at events or over the phone or on Zoom, and not just on your computer showing up to
Oh,
people.
very good.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's such a big part of building success on social media, whether it's, and they're all different. Facebook is, so different than LinkedIn, but there are also all these others. There's TikTok. There's, and you can
Yeah.
tell I keep bringing up TikTok because it scares the heck out of me.
No, I'm trying to think, do we need to get her on TikTok? Because
Yeah.
let's that may be where we need to be sometimes.
Right, my husband would be out there pushing me in front of the camera, do this. But I know that you have this program where you work with people and really help them create that visibility. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, what is included in that program? What do people need to do to be live, to show up and get seen, to be
Mm.
seen? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for asking. So, and just to let you guys know, any men that are watching, even though this is a program for women that we're going to be discussing, I do work with men. I
so
love you
guys, you're
guys.
not
You're
being
amazing.
excluded.
Yeah, we're not. I work with you guys individually. So
Okay.
the program, but and a lot of these aspects that are in the program, that's what we do. So you can listen to this with ears that may work for you as well. The only piece that wouldn't be added is the collaborative aspect, that I bring the women together in that aspect. And
Okay.
so there are accountability groups, for example, in Get Seen. See, what happens is a big aspect of being seen in business is who you know. And so there's a way to move within circles and support and collaborate and do all of these things that I happen to recognize with all of the history and experience that I have. And you'd think it would be obvious, and it's not. It's not obvious to a lot of people. For example, the ghosting. There's ghosting in business.
Oh, yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Just tell people what you mean what you say. Don't just disappear. Like, do you think someone's not going to remember you and how you do business when you
Right.
ghost? That's so icky.
Right. Right. And there's not, I think ghosting is such a dishonest thing to do with someone. Just tell them,
Yeah.
things have changed. I'm sorry, but
Whatever.
this is the way it is.
Yeah, I think but it goes to show, like, I think where a lot of people are doing this is they are making an assumption on how the other person's going to react based off of maybe what they're thinking, like, or how they would react. Because a lot of times it would be very simple if people didn't have expectations, and they also knew that another person didn't have an expectation. Whatever's best for you is best for us, right? Everything has to be a win-win. So when everyone is aligned in that way, why is ghosting necessary? And that's kind of, yeah. So that's something
you just said a very important word, or at least I think it's a very important word, and that is alignment. Could you speak to that for a minute?
Yes.
What is alignment, and why is it important?
So alignment, it goes back to joy, I think, and what we want. And I think we have been conditioned most of our lives up until a few years ago. We really had no clue that we were just programmed to do so many different things, to where alignment was never a factor. It was never like, I'm going to do something that makes me happy. I'm going to be doing something that's a gift to me. I mean, even past generations, our parents, even my mom, she would tell me, go to college or else you're not going to have success.
Right.
And okay, that's great. I believe in college. I went to college. I'm going back to college, but that's because it is a bonus to my life. I love how it adds to my life. I love everything it brings to me. But I had success before I graduated college. My degree actually did not bring me any more money. So what I created inside myself, what I learned from other things, brought me more money. And so I think there's this thing instilled in all of us that we've had to do things for money, for success, for survival. And it's opposite. Yes, you can survive with those things, but are you happy? How many years are you going to live where you're just doing the motions? 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. My dad's 87, I love him to pieces. I think he's making choices for himself now at 87, but how many years was he going through with what he was told?
Sure. So many of us have made careers that way, because you're right. That's the advice I got from my mother. Go to school because that's your key to success. Go to school because you can make more money, and all of those things put in there. So when we talk about that alignment, and that, being aligned with our values and our joy, I think that's something we didn't hear before. This is a new message. And, I think it's a very exciting message, because how many of us, and not just how many of us lived that way, but how many of us learned to feel that way, learned to be that way, and thought of that alignment as something that was kind of like out here. That joy was out here. Yeah, joy is nice, but you have grown-up responsibilities, and those don't necessarily, listen to me talking, those don't necessarily mean being aligned with joy or being aligned with anything in particular. So when we come to LinkedIn, we have goals in mind. We have reasons that we're on here. And for some of us, that might be finding clients. For others of us, that might be well, I think in all cases it's finding opportunity, but it's how you see opportunity. Are you looking for partners, or joint ventures, or are you looking for clients and those kinds of things. So that visibility that you talk about is to me just a real key for your success. And I wonder, and I'm going to wind this up in a few minutes because I see we have some questions. But I wonder, when we talk about visibility, or when I talk to clients about visibility, there's another piece that goes with visibility, and that's credibility. And that has to do, well, I'm going to ask you about that, rather than saying what I think about it. How does credibility relate to visibility, and why are those two things important? Or are they? Are they both important?
Yeah. So credibility is going to come with visibility over time.
Okay.
And the thing is like, we have to trust that people can trust themselves and know themselves, right? People need to start, people not need to, people get to begin to learn and trust themselves, and not just everything that's told to them from all these different avenues, right? And like, if we all think about like, when we think about credibility, okay, we can look at a million reviews, right? But sometimes people can get a review before a contract's done. And then the contract, at the beginning it's great, and then the end it's not, and the review's already out, right? There's so many things that can happen where you don't really know what you're getting by looking outside of yourself.
Okay.
So I invite people to tap into what's right for them, to figure out credibility. And what's really great is, and this is why I love to show up on video so much. It's my favorite form of communication for me personally, aside from being in person at events when I can.
Sure.
Because of the fact that people really see me, they see my heart, they see my passion, they see my soul, they see what I mean what I say. It's right there for the taking. It's right there for the consumption. They get it. And that is the credibility that they can tap into on their own. They can sit there and they can read my reviews. I got them. They can sit there. I can sit there and read their reviews if they got them, all that stuff. But when they see me over and over and over with that consistency, and when I say consistency, I don't mean it in the sense like you hear gurus say, you got to show up all the time on this date, this time. No, I mean, every time you show up, because I believe in quality over quantity. You can't be everywhere all the time. It is every time you show up, just be you. How credible is that, man? That's super credible. I'm me, and I'm flawed, and you're gonna see my flaws, and you're gonna see me be honest when I'm if I mess up and you call me out on it, I'm gonna say it. If I do great and you tell me so, you're gonna see me having trouble receiving that compliment, and I'm gonna, because I'm learning, to receive. So you're gonna see all the things, right? And so, but that's because I'm making a choice to be visible. And another thing that is credible about that, when you show up over and over, is that you're willing to show people all aspects, the imperfections, the beauty in that, is that's you. That's you.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I always tell people is, in particular on LinkedIn, because we know there are somewhere around 850 million people on LinkedIn, is that authenticity that you show up with. Being who you are is one of the ways that people make decisions about you. And one of those things is being willing to show up as who you really are, and to be authentic in that. So if someone was just hearing you for the first time, they were just hearing that they need to be visible, what are a couple of things, just really quick, what are some tips or some things that you think they might want to keep in mind, some questions they might want to ask themselves about being more visible?
Well, they might want to ask themselves first and foremost, why? Like what do they have that what matters to you right now? As far as why you're wanting to be visible, like why does it matter to you? Like what is your goal? And and not overthinking it. Just what is it? It could be that you just like you just feel like you want to be seen. It could not be related to anything other than you just like to be seen because you feel like, you know, people aren't seeing you. Maybe you want to meet more people. Who knows? Like,
Okay.
you know, just figure out what it is. Don't think that it has to be something grand. And it could be something that, you know, nobody thinks of you like, oh, you're a wonderful hero type person. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking about your life, you know, who cares
Right.
about everybody else, you know? It
Right.
could be big. It could be you want to be visible because you want to solve world hunger. I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want, that's what you want. And that matters. And you know, I think everyone's a piece of the puzzle, Dumont. And if we all just focus on our own piece of what that is, then we wouldn't be having all this nonsense going on. If we stopped, we tuned everything out of people saying, you should do this, you need to do this, you should think this, you should think that. And we can listen to people, but then we really understand ourselves more than anything. Everyone would be fine. That's my
Yeah.
personal belief. Everyone would be fine. We'd all be dancing around with flowers in our hair.
I think your values are showing there, Leilani. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I like fun.
Well, you know what? I remember back when I first started on LinkedIn, which was a bit ago, you know, it was a while, but they were telling us to post content on LinkedIn 5 times a day. You know, and when you think about that, 5 times a day, you know, and you said something a few minutes ago that really stuck with me. You said that you emphasized quality over quantity. And I'm wondering how that ties in with visibility. You know, is it do we want to limit how much we show up and just make what we do count more? Or is it really about repetition and people hearing our names or seeing us so many times?
Yeah, I talk about Dumont, like quality over quantity is where you start. You know, quantity comes when you have a social media team. Like I talk about
Okay.
quality over quantity because when people come to me, what they're doing is they're not doing anything half the time because they're like analyzing so much. It's ridiculousness. Like it's like, okay, but do I post it this time with this many stars and this many things? And do I put the camera here and put there? And like what is this? Are you making it building an iPhone? Like just put the camera on and tell people what you got. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's why I'm like, okay, quality over quantity, because you listen to these gurus that have people following them around with cameras that have built their systems out. Yes, we want that when that happens. And that's when you can do quality and quantity because you have
Sure.
a team. Right now, your business is not social media. Your business is doing your
Right.
business, right? So how do you give value to people if you are focused on quality when it's not the right time, or excuse me, quantity when it's not time for that yet, when you don't have a team? Now you're just running social media, you're not running your business. And if that's
Oh,
the
good
case,
point.
you're pumping out stuff that is of no value, because
Right. And
the
we all
value
see
comes,
that. We see a lot of that.
we see so much of that because people are scared, they're hiding, they think this has to be perfect, they're overthinking it, instead of just turn your camera on and say, hey, I just got done with this client, you guys, and this person, they came to me, they had this issue, and this is what I found. Thought I'd mention it to you guys because if they were having that issue, I want to share the
Uh-huh.
solution with you too. Love you all. Have a great day. Bye.
That's great.
You're
That's
visible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is so important. I wanted to take just a minute to check in the chat, um, and see what kinds of questions may have come up, and it looks like just a lot of positive statements. Um, Diane says, "Love the cocoon and the butterfly." That's great. And then we have ah, Deborah, who says, "Money is also a way to keep score."
Mhm.
And I never thought of it that way, but that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. And then we have a number of people just saying, "Yeah, mom, you know, we have to take care of our children, our
Yeah.
kids." And one person, I happen to know this person very well, Silhouette, because she's my VA, or one
Oh,
of
I
them.
love that name, by the way.
Isn't that great? You know,
Ah,
Silhouette. what a tremendous name. And then my other VA is Rusty, and he's here too.
I love that name too.
I know. They just have great names.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, and Rusty just dropped into the chat, and I want to ask you about this real quick. He just dropped a link to your visibility cheat sheet, and I wanted to ask you about that. Now, truth in advertising here. I've already read it. Okay. I couldn't wait. I got ahead of myself and I downloaded it, and that, but I found it really fascinating, because you're very clear on what you say, and it doesn't mince words. It's just like, boom, here's what you need to know about this. Boom, here's what you need to know about this. So, I wonder if you could just, if you were going to tell people one thing about that cheat sheet, what would it be? What would you like them to know?
I would like them to know that the cheat sheet, the visibility cheat sheet, is speaking to something that I haven't spoken to yet, which is the stuff that goes on behind the scenes inside our head, minds, and hearts that holds us back. And I really pick apart a lot of those things and give you guys tangibles on how to really work on those things so that you can be visible. Because at the end of the day, we all know that if we really want to learn social media and the activities within visibility, we could have just put on the YouTube video, and we have not. So there's more to it, and that's what I dive into. And then, of course, when you get the visibility cheat sheet, you're going to be able to receive, and be part of my network and receive from me regularly, my email list, and understand over time the things that take time to really, make shifts and have fun with. And that's pretty much all I'd like to share about that. I just would love to have anyone who feels called to be, in my inner circle and learn more. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and speaking of inner circle, you have a Facebook group.
I do. It's called Passion to Profits. And if you want to find Passion to Profits, you would go on Facebook. I don't know that I put that link anywhere off the top of my head.
You know what? We'll look it up, because I'm going to send the recording out to anybody who missed it. So, folks, if you're on here live and you like what you're hearing, share, because other people want to know too. And what Leilani is saying is just too juicy for us not to pass it along and enlarge the circle. So I have to tell you, Leilani, this has been a real pleasure on my part. You have spoken to some of the things that are really, really deep and important to me. And either Rusty or Silhouette, it's one of those two, because they're both on here, just dropped the link to your Facebook group.
Oh, thank you.
So expect a lot of people knocking on the door. And here's something that I'm kind of curious just about, in terms of how people learn more, and how people learn more about visibility, but also how they learn more about what you have to offer, some of your programs that you deliver.
Yeah. So one thing, when you do the visibility cheat sheet, it leads you to the next page where you can have what's called a visibility monetization assessment with me. And that's the quickest, easiest way to work with me and get a real feel what it would be like to work with me on a longer term basis as well, if you're thinking about that as well. Secondly, I really, really appreciate people just feeling like comfortable to reach out to me in any direct message capacity on whatever platform they want to do it on. If they want to work with me, we can see if it's a fit. I truly believe in communication. I love communicating. I'm not saying I'm highly accessible to anyone, anytime, anything, but I am saying if you want to work with me and you say so in the DMs, I will respond to you. And please feel totally comfortable directly speaking with me. I am a very direct person, and not in a mean way in any sense. My mom was grew up in Brooklyn, Italian woman from Brooklyn,
Okay.
that, I take after her in that way where I don't believe in beating around the bush. I just get to it because I'm called to serve and help people get seen in their passion. And that just, so each person that has a calling, whether they're 100% clear or almost there, and I work towards getting them seen within that has a ripple effect. And so I don't believe in wasting any time and going around in circles. I say what I mean what I say, and we get to work. And I'm also a very nice person. So
Yes.
I don't believe in brutal honesty. Honesty can be normal. It doesn't have to be brutal.
Yeah, it doesn't have to, you don't have to beat people up with
No,
it.
I think that's an excuse for mean people to say brutal honesty. No, just honesty is fine.
Yeah. And folks, I just want you to know that I just met Leilani recently. I don't know which one of us sent the other one an invitation, but when we did connect, you left me a message. You left me a voice message, and it said, we have some things in common. I wonder if you'd like to talk about how we might collaborate or something. And every time, because I'm of the generation that didn't grow up with iPhones. So as much as I try and I keep up with texting, I can at least do that. The iPhone or the phone is not my natural way of communicating, at least not since I was in high school and, and wanting to talk to guys on the phone. So one of the things that I just wanted to tell people about you is that you respond. It's not like you send that message out and then you wonder, well, what did I do wrong? Because she's never going to get back to me. You are very responsive, very easy to talk to, and just, as you said, direct, but personable. You don't beat people over the head with why they're not visible. So this has been delightful. I feel like, for one, I have learned an awful lot. And before we wind up, I wondered if there, because we both talk about branding, that's something that we have in common. I wonder if there's one piece of advice you would give people about promoting their brand on LinkedIn. What might that be?
Yeah, I would say do video. I would say definitely show up on video. If you want to stress about details, just have good lighting so people can see you. But I would say do video. And when you do video, understand that a lot of times people watch a video without sound. So put captions when you can. That's the one piece of advice that I would definitely share. And before we go, I just want to say, Dumont, I have had an amazing time. You're an amazing interviewer. I feel so comfortable, and it was a lot of fun for me. So I just really appreciate you inviting me here.
Well, I appreciate having you on, Leilani, and we have to do this again sometime because this was a lot of fun. Love it. Yeah. So, folks, if you want to reach out to Leilani, we will be sending out the recording tomorrow. We will also have all the links in there, to her Facebook group, to the visibility cheat sheet, which is so cool. You just have to, you have to get this because it's broken down so that it's pieces, that are very clear. It's not something where you have to dig through. You're going to get a lot of information from it just by looking at it and working through the exercises. So Leilani, I'm so glad you were here. I want to thank you, and reach out to her, folks, because she's the queen of visibility. Or visibility queen, I'll say it that way. Anyway, that's not her label, that's mine. So Leilani. Okay, so next week, same time, same place. And Leilani, again, thank you so much for being on. All right, bye guys.